Thanks for asking me to share, Jim. It's an honor to be up here and talk to you guys. For you, a lot of newcomers here. No less, you're going to have to suffer through hearing me. So there you go. That's your price. I was born right here in Arizona back in 1969. I was born in Mesa, and I was raised in a small town up on the northeastern part of the state called St. John's. And St. John's, primarily, it's a little Mormon town up there, and I was raised Mormon. I'm the oldest of 5 sons, and I have an older sister. My mom and dad were very active in the Mormon church when I was growing up, and my perception of God was created from my experiences of being raised as a Mormon kid in St. John's. And I'm going to tell you my initial impression, my first perception of God was that it was a conditional relationship that I had with God. I had to earn God's grace. I had to earn God's grace by doing certain things, like going to church, going to Sunday school. As I got older, getting priesthood, going to the temple, and doing things like that. And then there were certain things that I wasn't supposed to do. And those were like, wasn't supposed to drink, wasn't supposed to use tobacco, wasn't supposed to have sex, all those things like that. Problem was, and I did my duty when I was young. I went to church, went to Sunday school, tried my best to be good. I just never got that feeling, that good feeling, that warm feeling over me from doing those things. But I did find it in doing the things that I wasn't supposed to do. I started drinking and experimenting with marijuana when I was 13 years old in 8th grade. I started using tobacco when I was in 8th grade. And 13, by the time I got to high school, man, I went to my first party. That's when I had that feeling. Like, I felt normal, man. I felt like I fit in. I was doing what I wanted to do with the people that I wanted to do it with, and I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. And I would party every weekend, every other weekend. Throughout high school, when I was 15, it was the first time I experienced sex. Loved that as well. Gave me that feeling of belonging, that feeling of fitting in, of being needed. And I just knew at that point that I was never going to be deserving of God's grace. I couldn't do the things that I was supposed to do, and I loved doing the things that I wasn't supposed to do. And so, I just pretty much conceded to the fact that I was going to have to do this. I was going to have to go through life without God and run on self-will, as Jim said. And that worked really well for me because I did the things, I played to my strengths. I was an athlete in high school, functioned well around guys. I'm an alpha male, and I do well when I'm around other alpha males. I graduated high school, joined the Navy, and right there, I was in my wheelhouse. I fit right in. I knew where I belonged, and I had purpose. Drinking, I started suffering consequences for my drinking early on. When I was a junior in high school, I was a starter on the varsity basketball team, and I got kicked off because I was drinking in school. I get kicked off the baseball team as a varsity starter as well. And I had a girlfriend my junior year, and I was in love with her. And I started picking up minor consumption charges, drunken disorderly charges, and I found myself on juvenile probation, and I had to serve a couple of weeks in jail between my junior and senior year. My girlfriend didn't want anything to do with me. I wasn't able to do the things that I wanted. I wasn't able to be with the person that I wanted to be with. I wasn't able to do the things that I love, which is sports. And so I recognized that. Drinking was interfering with that, and I was able to quit. I was able to quit on my own, no program, no God, nothing. Fear of consequences and willpower, I quit. And that's the way I lived my life. I was married to the same woman for 25 years, had 3 kids. Throughout my time in the Navy, my junior year, I quit. I started again, my first deployment, my first port visit was the Philippines. Got on Liberty, man, had some San Miguel, some Mojo, and woke up in the morning in the hospital, man. Alcohol poisoning. Just like that. I hadn't drank in 2 years, man. That was my first experience back at it. Small price to pay for doing what I loved. I continued. It did not stop me. Eventually, it interfered with the same things. It interfered with what I wanted to do, be in the Navy. It interfered with my career. My wife was on the verge of leaving me. At this point, I had kids. So I was able to quit. And I continued that throughout my Navy career. Thank God I had that ability, because my kids, I was able to do a pretty decent job raising them. I was a good dad. I was present. I was involved. I coached. I did all the things that I felt I was supposed to do as a dad. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I continued drinking. So I had long periods of sobriety in my life. In 2003, I was 17 years in the Navy. I was a senior chief. I was an EA, and I felt that I deserved to drink again. It was I had earned that right. I'd been sober for about 8 years. And so I did. And I didn't suffer any immediate consequences. My retirement was approaching. Me and my wife had discussed it, and we wanted to give our kids a place to call home. They'd moved all the time, and throughout the Navy. I went from San Diego to Hawaii and just moved several times. So we decided to buy a house in St. John's, the town that both of us grew up and graduated high school from. And it was like 3 years before I was retired, or 4 years before I was retiring. And we thought that would be a good idea. Her mom was sick. She wanted to be with her family. I said, I'll just do the rest of it on my own. And that's when I started drinking. And it wasn't good. I didn't behave the way that a married man should behave. I'll just say that. There was a lot of infidelity. There was a lot of, my drinking took a more prominent role in my life. It wasn't just contained to the weekends, it was throughout the week. But I wasn't in jeopardy of losing my career. I really wasn't in jeopardy of losing my wife at that point, because she didn't know. She was up here in Arizona, I was in San Diego, and I was living a double life. I was a good husband and dad when I'd come and visit a couple of times a month, took vacation, come and be with my family. And then there was the me that was in San Diego that was the opposite of that. And, right before I retired, she found out about my double life. And it caused a lot of tension on our marriage. So when I retired, went back, it was difficult. And it ended up not working out. We tried for 5 years. It didn't work out. We separated. I moved out. By this point, my youngest daughter was a senior in high school. I rationalized to myself that I had done my job as a dad. I had raised my kids. I had done the things that I was supposed to do. And now it was time to enjoy myself. And my drinking career really stepped up. And I found myself not able to quit regardless of the consequences. Somewhere along the line, I went too far. I had crossed the line that I couldn't go back, and the consequences started coming, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop it. I was a bull in a china shop, and I was breaking everything up. I was ruining my life. I was ruining the lives of my kids. Got married a second time for a short period. It didn't last long. I couldn't really maintain any relationship. A meaningful relationship with women. They're very superficial. My relationships were pretty much chicks that I'd pick up in the bar, take them home, date them for a while, have fun, and then until it ran its course. And then it wasn't very long of a course either. So I lived my life like that for a long, long time. But the thing is when you progress down that road, it just gets worse and worse, man. DUIs, health issues. I'm diabetic, so there was 3 or 4 times, 5 times that I went to the hospital with complications due to my drinking. And I finally got to the point where I knew that I needed to stop. I saw what it was doing to me. I saw what it was doing to my health. I recognized it was trying to kill me, and I couldn't stop, so I did what I thought was the right thing, and I went into treatment. This was in 2020. And so I go to treatment, I learned a lot about alcoholism. I learned a lot about my disease. I learned a little bit about myself. I didn't think I needed to do all the things that were suggested. I didn't do a program. I didn't pick a program, a 12-step program to do. I had a few sponsors I fired, and they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what I needed. I still knew what I needed, right? I knew what I needed, and I thought I had found it. And after I got out of treatment, I relapsed again. And things, every time I'd relapse, every time I went through that process, my periods of sobriety got shorter and shorter, and my relapses got worse and worse. And I finally ended up to the point, after going through treatment several times, and I finally got to the point where my life was totally out of control. I pushed everyone away, ruined all my relationships, and really was just by myself. I was in isolation, and I was living to get drunk and not deal with any of my problems that I had. Don't have to deal with life. I wasn't able to hold a job. It was interfering with my drinking. And I ran out of good ideas. I ran out of bright ideas. I really did. I knew I couldn't do it on my own, and I needed help. And I knew that I needed to start taking suggestions from people that have done this before me. And I had been around a lot of treatment at the River Source. Paul's always been engaged in River Source. And through, not him, I didn't really know him personally, but I knew a lot of the people around. Carlos has been around for quite a while. Shazad has been around quite a while. And guys like that, Alex has been around quite a while, and I was exposed to hope. And so when I went into treatment for the last time in December of 22, I knew that I needed to take these suggestions. I knew that I did not have any answers. And so I committed to the full treatment cycle. I committed to getting a sponsor. I committed to working a program. And, I started immediately as soon as I got in. By the time I completed inpatient, and I also committed to sober living for 6 months. That's it. And so I had a good plan. I started working with my sponsor immediately. By the time I got out of residential, I had already completed my step 4, and as soon as I got out, I went to step 5. The first sober living house that I went to was Paul's house. It was a Glade house. The house manager at the time, this is funny, didn't have a ride. He didn't have a car. So he checks me into the thing. It was on a Monday too. He checks me in on Monday. He goes, "Oh yeah, by the way, Don, there's this class we go to called H.O.P.E," and then he kind of explained, gives me the whole pitch. And he goes, "Would you like to go?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to go." And he goes, "Oh yeah, can I get a ride?" One of the best decisions I made. So I came into H.O.P.E. And I was doing step 4 and 5 with my sponsor at the time I came in. So when I jumped into H.O.P.E, we just so happened to be, coincidentally, on the lessons that were involving forgiveness and reparation, which were right in line with what I was doing in my step work. So right off the bat, I could see immediately, like I'm not a dummy, I could see immediately how H.O.P.E closely aligns to the steps. The principles in H.O.P.E are the same principles that they teach in Alcoholics Anonymous in working the steps. And so, and I forgot to mention this. When I came back into treatment, I knew the one thing that I'd always been missing is I was trying to do this, because I've even tried to do the steps. I tried to do them as a self-help book, checked them off as I went, and I did them, and I did them really quickly, and I did them really good, as I thought, man. I filled up a notebook, But I wasn't sold on the God thing. I didn't need God's help. I had this conception that I showed you at the beginning of my speech, what God was. And I wasn't worthy of that God. But I knew, I heard people share. I could relate to their stories in their addiction and their alcoholism. And then they tell me what happened to them. And finding this power greater than themselves that restored them to sanity, and lifted their obsession to drink. And I was like, how in the world do you find that? I need to find that. I just knew in my heart that I needed to find God. And I didn't know how. And so I had to smash that perception that I had of God and start anew. Like I had to find my own way. And, doing the steps in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was able to connect and find that higher power. The steps did that for me. That was a blessing that I got from there. And when I came to H.O.P.E, it gave that more direction. And it really, when I got involved with H.O.P.E, it really opened my mind to what God was and what he could really do. I thought my problem was that I was an alcoholic, and alcohol is my problem. And what I found out was that that wasn't my problem. My problem's in here. My problem is my willpower. My problem are all these great ideas that I think are brilliant, but they just don't seem to work for me. So, when I came to that realization, and that alcohol was my solution to deal with it, then it gave me something that I could work with. And I understood what it meant to turn my will over to God's will, or to God, and try to live my life in God's will. As I started leaning and seeking God and trying to find my solution, which is God, some things happened to me. First thing that happened was that obsession to drink, where alcohol was the solution to all my problems. Alcohol would make everything better. Alcohol would give me that feeling. That obsession was lifted. It just went away one day. I don't know exactly when. Someone asked me one time, says, "Don, when's the last time you obsessed about drinking alcohol?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. It's been a long time." It was somewhere between steps 4 and 9 in my program. It was somewhere between the lesson on forgiveness and reparation and, being of service and the H.O.P.E lessons. Because that's what it's about. That's what changed it. And another thing happened inside of me that it's strange, and I'm going to describe it the best that I can, and I hope you can relate. This feeling that I remember having in me when I was a little kid. In my earliest memories, I had a very distinct sense of right and wrong. I had a conscience. And when I was doing wrong, it made me feel really bad. And I didn't like it. And so it kept me from doing things wrong. I intuitively and I naturally knew the right thing to do all the time. And when I didn't do that, it made me feel bad. And I could really feel it. It was a very profound feeling inside of me. Well, life jaded me. Running life on my own will and not needing God, I suppressed that feeling. And then it was supported by my accomplishments and the things that I was able to achieve on my own willpower. I didn't need it. I learned to suppress it, and I suppressed it to the point where I didn't even reckon. If it was trying to tell me I was doing wrong, I didn't feel it. It wasn't there. I had suppressed it. As I was working the steps and as I was coming to H.O.P.E, that feeling started coming back. And, some people say God conscious, some people say conscious. I think it's the same thing. Because and I have 3 kids. And I've been around a lot of grandchildren and stuff. When they're born, babies are born perfect beings. They just are. All of us were when we were born, when we came out of our mothers, or however we came into this world, we were perfect beings. That was that consciousness that we had as young kids. That's the perfect being. And then, life is what our will is what takes that away from us. And I honestly believe that now. I honestly believe that today I am a spiritual being with a human condition. And my human condition is my willpower, my self-will. And my self-will has always been full of resentments, made me dishonest, selfish and self-centered and full of fear and inconsiderate to everybody. The further that I live my life on self-will, the worse those defects got. To the point where alcohol was the only thing that I knew how to make me feel better from it. Help me live in myself, because I couldn't stand myself. I was uncomfortable in my own skin. That consciousness started coming back at me. Because I know that if I'm in God's will, and that's my spiritual being that I am, is God's will, there isn't resentment, there's forgiveness. There isn't dishonesty, it's all honesty there. There isn't selfishness and self-centeredness, it's all about selflessness and giving. And there is no fear, it's courage. And I get those things so long as I have faith in that one, my solution, which is God. And it's not enough just to have faith. I can't just pray to God, ask for the answers, and sit and wait for them to come. I gotta get busy, I gotta do something. My faith must be followed by action, otherwise it's useless to me. God speaks to me through you. He speaks through the guys that I work in the program. He speaks to me through people at work. If I'm in tune, I get answers, I get intuitions, and I know I'm doing the right thing. I get guided on what I should say and what I should do. That's God's will for me. So if you could relate to that, man, and I know some of you can. If you can't relate to that because you're new, you haven't experienced it, keep coming back. If you're having problems with alcohol and drugs, find a sponsor, work a program, couple it up with H.O.P.E. You might have the same experience I have, because I do not struggle with alcohol today. The toughest thing that I dealt with today was not taking a drink. It didn't even cross my mind. Mm-hmm. My days, and I've learned through doing this, I don't let a bad moment become a bad day. A bad moment is just a bad moment, man. Pretty soon I'm going to have something else in front of me. I focus on that. I do my best. And at the end of the day, when I look back, it's a good day. And if I do have a bad day, there's always tomorrow. I don't have to stack them up into bad weeks, bad months, bad years like I used to. Stop it where it is. It is what it is, man. Move on. Because this spiritual road that we're walking here isn't a one and done deal. It's not like I do anything that gives me that forever. I have to work on it every day. I have to try to grow closer to my solution. If I'm not growing closer to my solution, that's God. I'm growing closer to my problem, which is me. And if I get back to the problem, me, and that's dominating my life, I know the pain and misery that's waiting for me. So that's my testimony. Thanks for letting me share that.